Basic appraisal procedures, page 170. As mentioned earlier, GBA is usually stated as square feet. However, for some applications, such as a warehouse, the area might be stated as cubic feet. Gross leasable area consists of the total floor area exclusively used by tenants, including below grade areas. Common areas enjoyed and used by all tenants are not considered in the gross leasable area. Thus, the method is primarily used in multi-tenant non-residential structures. The method for determining gross leasable area is somewhat different than other methods. Here, the area is determined by calculating the area from the midpoint between the partitioning walls as shown in measurement 1. In the case that the unit has outside walls, the measurement would extend to the outer surface as shown in measurement 2. Important points. It is not uncommon for appraisers to encounter large tracts of land and/or trade fixtures in both residential and non-residential assignments. This is another reason general knowledge of non-residential practices is necessary among all appraisers. It is important to be aware of the context in which GLA is used. Gross living area is a measurement for residential properties. Gross leasable area is used for non-residential properties. Trade fixtures. Trade fixtures are items usually associated with a business or profession operating in or on a property. They are not like fixtures in that they are not considered part of the real estate and are considered personal property no matter how they are attached. Appraisers must be observant to note any trade fixtures in a commercial or industrial property. Specialized knowledge and competence may be required to appraise these items. Sometimes trade fixtures can even be found in residential properties. For example, a homeowner could have operated a small beauty salon in one room of the house. There may be special attached cabinetry, sinks, etc. common to the profession that could be considered trade fixtures. But most often, the appraiser will find trade fixtures in a commercial or industrial property where a tenant is operating. For tenant-occupied properties, the appraiser should review the lease for any terms that address trade fixtures and their provisions for removal or making the items permanent. Examples might include specialized lighting, plumbing, electrical items and equipment, shelving, display cases, and other display items, signage and trademarked items, hoists, air supply lines, oxygen lines and controls, restaurant equipment, sometimes including walk-in coolers, storage tanks and devices, service station pumps and canopies. Page 171. In addition, an appraiser qualified to appraise a commercial property, either by credential or competency, may be asked to appraise an operating business, including real property. This one case truly demonstrates the need for appraiser/client communication during problem identification. Often, the expectation of the appraiser is to include values for 3 distinct asset types in the appraisal: tangible real property, tangible personal property, and intangible business assets. Sales contracts for going businesses often simply state a sale price for the entire enterprise or the going concern. Let's look at all the elements of going concern value. For example, if a small established hardware store was for sale, there would be the real property, trade fixtures, including shelving, display cases, signs, attached equipment, etc., personal property, inventory, non-attached equipment, office furniture, etc. Other considerations are the business assets, likely to include value of the established business, contracts with others, accounts receivable, franchise if any, etc. Unless the appraiser can comply with the competency rule of USPAP for appraising the different assets of a going concern, services may be limited to the appraisal only of the real property. With a going concern value, the appraiser's value opinion for the real property asset would reflect the value of the real property, assuming the hardware store is operating in it. In fact, more than one appraiser may be needed, possibly one for each asset type. Unfortunately, misunderstandings may occur during problem identification without appraiser/client communication. The client could believe the real property appraiser is accepting an assignment, including the consideration of all assets. Going concern value. You go down to the left, you got tangible assets, then you got real, then you got personal. On this side, you have intangible assets. Beneath that is established business. Underneath that is existing contracts. Underneath that is trade secrets. Underneath that is other assets. And underneath that is residual income. Reporting methods. Various options for reporting a non-residential appraisal are available both in form and narrative formats. There are software vendors producing programs for each style. Of course, non-residential appraisals can use any of the three reporting options. 1. Self-contained. 2. Summary. 3. Restricted use. Page 172. As was mentioned earlier in the text, the reporting option is determined with the client based on the intended user and the intended use of the appraisal. Various landforms are available and are widely used and preferred by many lenders for vacant parcels. In most cases, though, a narrative format is still the most used format for presenting a non-residential appraisal. A narrative appraisal report will lead the reader through the important elements of the appraisal to appraisal conclusion in an orderly and systematic format. USPAP does not dictate the style or suggest a specific method other than the level of content and detail. But generally, a narrative appraisal report will include a written narrative addressing various elements in several sections. 1. Forward. Table of contents. Letter of transmittal. Executive summary. 2. Problem identification and scope of work. Reporting option and format. Client and other intended users. Intended use. Type and definition of value. Effective date. Date of the report. Date of inspection. Relevant characteristics of the property and rights appraised. Assignment conditions including general assumptions, limiting conditions, hypothetical conditions, extraordinary assumptions, scope of work. 3. Research, property and identification, legal description, sales and listing history, neighborhood, market area description, location characteristics, description of land, description of improvements. Page 173. Taxes and assessments, zoning and regulations, exposure time, marketability data. 4. Analysis and conclusions, highest and best use analysis, valuation analysis, land, cost, sales comparison, income, reconciliation and final value opinion conclusion, appraisers signed certification. 5. Addenda and exhibits, maps, demographic and statistics data, leases, cost estimates if applicable, appraiser's qualifications, other attachments. Important points. Client/appraiser communication is important in the problem identification stage to avoid misunderstandings of an assignment and its purpose/use. A narrative format is the most widely used reporting method for non-residential appraisals. Sample commercial applications. The purpose of this chapter is to provide an overview of some of the challenges of non-residential appraisal not typically found with residential assignments, problem-solving methodology, and techniques. We have also discussed terminology and elements of property description and analysis of non-residential appraisal practice. This final section includes a few typical non-residential application scenarios. As you work through the case studies, think about the problem areas, how the problem can be solved, and issues relevant to each scenario.